What's up, y'all? We back with another Stride session, Stride with 5. We have Maryam Khan here with us, and she is running for state senate. For those of you who don't know who Maryam Khan is,
I'm currently a state representative. I've been a state rep for now 4 years. I'm also a teacher, taught special education in Hartford for many years. Now I work at the University of Hartford. I teach special education to the next generation of teachers.
oh wow, so you was teaching special ed, and now you teach special ed to teach people who are going to become teachers.
Yes.
How's that?
It's great getting to prepare the next generation of teachers. As someone who's taught in our schools, I can make sure that they have especially cultural competencies, which is one of the hardest things to teach, and to make sure that they understand what they're going into before they go into the field.
Okay, so you teach. Are you a parent?
Yes, I'm a mother of 3.
A mother of
3.
Teach. You're a mother of 3, and you are running for senator. How do you balance all of those things?
You prioritize certain things over others. You have less of a social life, obviously. You have less time to mess up, so you have to really be on top of your stuff. Community. So I have family around me, friends around me that help with, other things I may need.
What made you want to serve the community in the first place?
So I was in my town of Windsor. I was going to events that were community-based, but more like an opportunity to speak up. So I went to a forum on policing in Windsor and just spoke up about a few things. Found some people in town that eventually showed me what local politics in Windsor was, and I got involved through that way. Eventually, they had asked me to run for Board of Ed. It's not something that I would have considered. Political office is obviously something that I didn't think I would find myself in as an educator. When I went into our schools, I taught mostly Hartford Public Schools, noticing what resources were not there, especially compared to surrounding towns that are just 10 minutes away, and the discrepancy. A lot of that is set by the state. So I became a legislator to advocate on behalf of students, parents, teachers, etc.
What is it that you notice that students are carrying emotionally right now that adults need to pay more attention to?
So when we look at student data, like state and Board of Eds and everyone, we say, okay, children aren't reading, they're not performing they're not performing, especially compared to maybe 20 years ago or even other countries. But what we seem to ignore, and we assume that it's because teachers aren't teaching it right, but what we seem to ignore is all the other things that students are now carrying. So as we see societal problems increase, we haven't raised the federal minimum wage, most people's wages haven't gone up. People now work multiple jobs to keep up with the rising cost of living. Children carry all of that with them, right? They bring all of that into the classroom. And so one thing as a teacher I have no control over that has the biggest impact is their home life. And the best thing that we can do as a society is to improve the overall home life of the child. That will then lead to the child being more engaged in academics. So I think we don't talk about that enough. We always say we need more classes, we need more resources, which we do, of course. But we also need to figure out how to solve society's problems that the children are bringing in from their homes.
Okay. So when you talk to families in Hartford, etc., and other towns, obviously, what are they telling you that they need? So I know that's what the students need, right? That the parents don't really notice, adults don't notice. What are the families saying that they need? Or what have you noticed that they need?
So oftentimes it's connecting them to services, especially in Hartford. That could mean assistance with getting job training, assistance with just being able to, first of all, right now we have a lot of families just in survival, so assistance with energy, assistance with rent, safe housing, stable housing. And then after that, it's job trainings, figuring out what are other career paths. Because these are also parents that when they went through schools, they didn't have that opportunity, unfortunately, as children, to be their best, and now they're parents and they are still just trying to survive the system. And so the school's job really, essentially, especially in Hartford and in any of our cities, is to not just raise our children, but also figuring out how to help parents navigate their own lives, which impacts the students directly.
What do you think people most misunderstand, right, about the communities that you represent?
I'll speak to especially people outside of our community. So in the Capitol building, I work with legislators from all over the state.
Yeah.
And a big misunderstanding will be that parents are lazy, that parents don't care, that they're not involved, they're too worried about themselves. And I really don't like that narrative, especially because it's very easy to say that, and then that way you can take away your responsibility in it and say, we can't help those children because their families don't care. I think that's a big misunderstanding, whether intentional or unintentional. I think what I've seen time and time again is families that care, but they're trying to survive.
Right.
And so they have so much on their plate that they are not able to read to their kids at home always, or provide books at home even, right? I didn't grow up with books at home, but when I was a parent, I had opportunities and I figured out resources where I could get free books at home for my kids. And so my kids learned to read on time because they always had books at home. But not everybody has those resources connected. My parents didn't. And figuring out how to connect those other things in the community is key, but one thing that comes in the way is that narrative. Parents just don't care. They should go and find these things, assuming that assumes that all other things in the parents' lives are working well, which we know they're not. And it's a big misunderstanding.
So obviously you've spoken before about public schools, healthcare, and stronger public sectors. What does that actually look like for your everyday families?
So we have a public sector to some extent, right? We have public schools are a public sector. In healthcare, we have some state health insurance, but expanding expanding the public sector means that the government would control majority of that market. So public schools right now, for example, majority of schools in this country are public schools. So the government has majority of that market. But in healthcare, insurance, we don't have most of that space. Private insurance controls it. So they set that market. If the government has more of that sector, we then set the rate. And all other private companies that are trying to profit off of it have to compete with us. So I believe in a stronger public sector, and obviously under a democracy that makes sure that the people's interests are at the front, not profit.
Okay. So it's in your mind, right? It's now Wednesday morning.
Thursday morning.
No, I'm saying.
Okay,
thinking
okay.
forward, right? Yeah, it's Wednesday morning. Got past the primary. It looks good for you. The other election is November?
Yep.
That comes, you win, right? What is one issue you want people to hold you accountable for?
So most of my campaign has been centered around public education, and my advocacy in the last 4 years has been around public education. But unfortunately, the chair of education, who is our current senator, we don't see eye to eye on public education, and he hasn't been a support on public education. This has been my biggest promise to this district, that my advocacy in that space would be strong for Windsor, Hartford, and Bloomfield's public schools. And whatever I can to deliver more resources, whatever I can to make sure that we don't send more money out of our districts, but bring more money into our districts.
You mentioned what you do for work, meaning obviously politics, but having to fight for things, right? And people who are supposed to be, whether they're on the same team as you guys all kind of supposed to be fighting for the same thing, right? It's the greater good for the community. When you receive pushback in those areas, how does it make you feel?
Frustrating, it's probably the most frustrating part of that job. People think that we have a Democratic majority in this state, that we get whatever we want. That's not true. I always like to think of and remind people that's not party versus party. It is the up versus down, and it's the people that have things and the people that are trying to ask for things. So I come from a community that's asking. And I don't ask anymore, I demand, but still we're still in the minority, unfortunately. Yeah. And a lot of people that are from those communities don't realize their power. So I try to get them to see that we can, if we band together, we are in the majority. But it's really making sure that you make it non-optional, like this is a demand. And this is why change of leadership is important, because when people have been there for too long, they get comfortable with, this is just the way things are. I don't accept that.
So in the midst of all of that, right, how is it that you balance your mental health?
So for my own personal mental health, I do therapy. I also do certain things that are outside of all of these other spaces that I'm in. So I work out regularly, which helps with having goals outside of politics, outside of parenting, outside of teaching. And I also have strong boundaries with certain things, right? There's certain things I don't allow myself to get into. There's certain people that I can't be around, and I gotta hold myself to it. All those things coming together kind of help to, keep pushing along in the space.
Why should people vote for you?
So I've been a legislator now 4 years. I've been able to deliver results. And one thing that helps in that building, there's 151 state reps, 36 senators. As someone who is a teacher, who has taught in our schools, when I speak on education, obviously people listen. So being someone that is in that fight, has done that work, and has delivered, I think that's what people should be looking at. We look at who can deliver results, who can fight the fight that's needed for this community. I've been able to do so. This past year, we had 2 police shootings in Hartford that were carried out by police officers. Both had to do with mental health. And the community had asked for urgent cares in the North End. I represent right now the North End. The community had asked for more mental health access. Interestingly enough, right before the shooting happened, the city cut funding for the HEART team because city budget did not have the resource to keep it going. I was able to reinstore that funding. It's about $870,000, and also get a planning grant for an urgent care in our community. So it's an example of somebody that has been able to deliver results in just the 4 years that I've been there. So they'll tell you that seniority gets you everything, but that's not true, because there are legislators that have been there far longer, represent Hartford, and haven't been able to do that. So I think we have to look at who someone is, and then look at, do they have any private interests? Do they have any ethical concerns in being in that building? And if they do, that's not somebody that has the people's interest at the forefront.
Well, for yourself, as someone who made history as the first Muslim member elected to the Connecticut House, what does representation mean to you? Like, what does that mean to you to be the first?
I take that as a responsibility, honestly, because being the first also means being the only. And so a lot of people look to me on Muslim-related issues in that building. And so it's a huge responsibility, because I can't know how every single Muslim feels, right? We're not a monolith. But being the only person in the house, and being the only woman in that space, period, that's Muslim, I carry the responsibility of making sure that my community voice is there as much as possible. However, interestingly enough, when I first got elected, that was a big deal, that first Muslim member, but now I've gotten to be known for many other things. I'm the first special ed teacher that was in that space. I've made a lot of change in special education law. So there's different ways that I bring my representation into that space, and the responsibility is what I take more seriously. So I do that by just making sure I talk to many different groups across the state, so that I have also that representation. So special ed teachers, I talk to special ed teachers, not just in my district, but across the state, because I do bring that experience with me when I'm in that building.
Sure. So a lot of people don't know that you're not running for 2 seats, right? You're in 1 seat, but you're running for another seat. Similar, it's not like boxing where you go up in a weight class, and if you lose that belt, you still remain champion in the other one. No, this is completely different. Yep. So you kind of are saying, hey, I'm going to step away from something that I know I'm really, really good at, to essentially aim at another position, which gives you, I'm assuming, more pull.
Yep.
How does that feel? So leave out of one space where you've been doing your thing, you've been rocking for a while, right? To go at another seat and say, this is where I want to be. So that's a 2-part question. One, do you think that people are aware of the magnitude of you running for a new seat and completely understand what that means? That's the first question.
Yeah, no, I don't think a lot of people are aware. So I currently am a rep, but once I put my name in for this Senate seat.
Do you think people understand the magnitude of leaving your seat and going to the next seat? Do you think they understand what that means exactly? And if not, can you explain it to them?
Yeah, so when I decided to run for the House seat, when I was running for the Senate seat, I knew that I wanted to have my focus be in one area. So both elections are this year for the House seat and the Senate seat, and I decided to just focus on the Senate seat. I have the endorsement of the Democratic Party, which gave me more of a confidence that I can fully go into that seat. But if I were to not win that election, then I would lose my current seat as well. So I'm only running for Senate. I'm not running for House, not running in this current seat. The person that's actually running in my seat is Kyle Anderson from Hartford.
What's the pressure feel like around that, right? Some people might say that like you're insane or you're crazy to go against somebody that's been there for a long time. But you're not the only person running against somebody that's been in the seat for a long time. But for you, being the first or being the only in so many different spaces, what's that pressure like?
I think, again, for me, it came through as a responsibility to the district. So we've had representation in the Senate that has been there for 20 plus years by our current senator. And every year the district has had increasing struggles. We have a Democrat and the Democratic Party is in charge. So by that logic, there should be no reason why every year Hartford has a growing deficit in their Hartford Public Schools budget. This year was $70 million. Windsor and Bloomfield make cuts to their education system. Windsor Public Schools just went to pay-to-play sports. All those things are decisions that our district has had to make despite having the chair of education as our senator. So I think the district has been begging for a change, and I found it as a responsibility to be able to deliver that change. I've been able to do that in the House, and I will be able to do that in the Senate.
Right. Before anything that you get touch on that you want to?
Youth programs, like the nonprofits in Hartford, that's a big part of this.
Okay.
I won't talk about his case. But
What?
he's under investigation.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to talk about that, but I will just speak to
Oh, no. It is your platform to do what you want. I don't steer it one way. Whatever you guys give, I just post. I don't.
Yep. Okay.
So when it comes to the nonprofits and the people who are dependent on government funding and grants and et cetera, where do you stand and how do you feel about where we are as a city when it comes to that?
Yeah, so especially Hartford, because Hartford does not have a city budget.
Not to cut you off, I apologize, and I ask that because I'm aware that there are a lot of nonprofits that lost funding. I'm aware that a lot of people lost their job behind funding, and et cetera. So I ask that knowing that, like, personally knowing people who have been affected by, one, we could go as high as what Trump has done with cutting certain things, all the way down to as low as whatever as to why these things are the way they are. So how do you feel? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah. One, like Hartford's reliance on nonprofits is a lot more than typical towns, and it's primarily because their city budget cannot afford youth programs. So like I live in the town of Windsor, and in Windsor we have a lot of different youth programs that are carried out by our town. City of Hartford doesn't have money for that, and so the nonprofits fill in that gap. And so youth programming, senior services, and other community-based organizations are nonprofits that are running out of Hartford. So Hartford doesn't just need that nonprofit support, but it needs significant support because of the inability of the city to be able to do it, right? So when we had these cuts to our programs, that meant that kids didn't have summer programs, kids didn't have after-school programs, seniors didn't have services in our community, and that to me obviously is just unacceptable. So a lot of the programs that I've supported in the time that I've been in the legislature include mostly youth programming, basketball programs, dance programs, our youth theater, Act Up theater. And I do that primarily, especially as an educator. When children have other activities that they're involved in, it makes a world of a difference in their academics. So even if a child is playing basketball, while they might not be doing reading there, they will do better at reading in school if they also are involved in something else outside of school. And so connecting them to programs that they like, that they enjoy, that help them grow in other ways is still very good for their academic, right? So trying to figure out how to bring that in, and then obviously it keeps them safe. So if you're in all these other programs and you're not out in the streets, you're not getting caught up with the wrong crowd, you're not getting pulled into the wrong thing, you're not making desperate decisions. So providing that really is real public safety. And these last 2 years, we've lost significant funding in Hartford for our nonprofits. That has to be restored, and that will not be restored under the current senator. So we need new leadership. So the election is happening right now. We have early voting every day until Sunday. Sunday, August 9th.
Okay.
So until August 9th, we have early voting in Hartford at the Hartford City Hall, in Windsor Town Hall, and in Bloomfield at 330 Park Avenue. And then on Tuesday, Election Day, is the final day of voting, August 11th, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So people can vote now, today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, or they can vote on Election Day. There's many options. And you can find me online on social media. My Instagram handle is Khan for Khan, which is KhanForConn. And on Facebook, it's Maryam Khan.
Word. I want to thank you for striding with 5. That's it for today's stride session. Yeah, hopefully everybody gets out and vote. Elections is coming up really, really soon. Every vote matters, especially on a local level. Whether you think your voice matters or not, you can head over to the stride sessions on YouTube, click on some of these candidates' profiles, and figure out who aligns with you or who aligns with somebody that you care about, and vote for that person, whatever that looks like. But don't not vote and then have all the opinions in the world. That's it for today's stride session. Stride with 5 and Maryam Khan. 5 out.